Each morning presents a choice. Before the world intrudes with its noise and demands, before the mind fills with tasks and pressures, there is a moment, a narrow opening, a space of silence and decision. The Stoics treated this space as sacred. It is here, in this brief pause before action, that they anchored themselves with a single reminder: return to reason, return to virtue, return to what you can control. This video explores how a consistent morning reflection shaped by Stoic principles can build resilience, clarity, and discipline. The reminder is not dramatic. It is simple and often overlooked. Yet it holds the power to ground you, to restore inner command, and to prepare you for whatever the day holds. In this lecture, we will unpack how this practice works, how to adopt it, and why it forms the bedrock of the Stoic mindset. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Mind Before the World begins. When the Stoic rises, they begin the day not by checking the world, but by checking the self. Before the voices of others reach them, they turn inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He was not promoting pessimism. He was training the mind to expect reality. The mind in the morning is impressionable. It is shaped by the first thoughts you entertain, the first decisions you make, and the first mood you allow. These early mental impressions form the emotional and psychological foundation of your day. What enters your awareness first has the power to influence your reactions, expectations, and mental clarity long after the moment has passed. This is why the Stoics gave so much attention to the morning. They understood that an unchecked start often leads to an unstable day. The early hours are not just hours, they are direction. They either help you focus or fragment you. When the mind is left vulnerable to impulse, distraction, or emotional drift, you begin the day with no clear center. But when you take a moment to set intention, you remind yourself who you are, what you value, and what you aim to bring to the world. The Stoics practice this not as a form of superstition or empty habit, but as a way of staying aligned with their guiding principles. It was their method of recalibration, of re-establishing inner order before outer disorder tried to steal their clarity. This early check-in is like adjusting the compass before setting sail. It does not guarantee smooth waters or perfect conditions. Life remains uncertain. But the direction of your character is not uncertain. This anchoring allows you to enter your day without fear of being pulled by every current. It places the focus back where it belongs, on what is within your command. The reminder is simple, yet powerful. You cannot control other people, external events, or passing opinions. These things may swirl around you, collide with you, or tempt you into reaction. But you always retain the choice of how to respond. You are responsible for how you show up, how you act, and what you carry forward. You are the steward of your attention and behavior. This understanding sets the tone in a subtle but powerful way. You do not rise into a day defined by external noise and randomness. You step into it with a sense of authority over your mind. You do not begin as a passive participant in a world of chaos, swayed by every news headline or distracted by every message. You begin it as an active agent, calm, composed, and grounded in principle. This mental positioning provides a sense of direction that holds steady throughout the day. You are not merely reacting to circumstances. You are choosing a mindset and reinforcing it deliberately. This act becomes a stabilizing force. When the inevitable challenges come, a sharp word, a delay, a mistake, you have already declared where your focus lies. You are not caught off guard. You are prepared. The quality of your day is not dictated by luck or outcome, nor by approval or convenience. It is determined by what you cultivate within yourself before the world even speaks. That cultivation is presence, an alert and aware state of being. It is clarity, an understanding of what matters and what does not. It is disciplined thought, a refusal to drift into old habits or impulsive reactions. These elements come together to form a calm inner command. This is where the Stoic finds strength before the day even begins. Not in performance, but in preparation. Not in control of others, but in control of self. The morning becomes a moment of grounding, of aligning with a steady inner compass before stepping out into a shifting world. Chapter 2. The Principle of Control. Epictetus began his Enchiridion with this: some things are in our control and others are not. This distinction lies at the heart of Stoic morning reflection. It trains the mind to separate what belongs to it from what does not. Each morning the Stoic recalls this division. They reflect on what is theirs to manage, their judgment, their choices, their responses. They take a moment to center their mind on what they govern completely, their interpretations, their reactions, their use of time, and the attitude they bring into each moment. They examine the internal state they are responsible for shaping. They reaffirm that their emotions are not caused by events, but by their perceptions of those events. They also acknowledge what is outside their jurisdiction: other people's behavior, natural events, circumstances, social dynamics, or shifting trends. These things may affect them, but they do not belong to them. This mental exercise draws a sharp boundary. It separates what requires their effort from what deserves no attachment. This act of drawing the line is not done once, it is done daily. Without this reminder, the day becomes chaotic. The mind chases what it cannot change. It reacts to opinions, expectations, delays, and disruptions. It gets pulled into the emotional weather of others and forgets its own internal climate. Thoughts become entangled in distractions. Mood swings become amplified by the behavior of others. But with this anchor, there is clarity. You return to what is truly yours: your choices, your inner posture, your ability to hold yourself steady. You begin to direct your energy toward what actually belongs to you. This is where mental freedom is born. You stop arguing with what you cannot influence. You stop wasting energy trying to control what is never yours to hold. You stop personalizing the uncontrollable. This quiet discipline of attention changes everything. It builds a more grounded way of living. This is not passive acceptance, it is active ownership. The Stoic is not indifferent, they are intentional. They do not neglect their responsibilities, they refine them. They remove what is not essential to their purpose. They take full responsibility for their part, and full detachment from what is not. This balance makes them less reactive. They don't absorb every insult. They don't cling to every praise. They do not let small external triggers control their state of being. This shift builds focus. When you know what is yours to manage, your attention becomes precise. Your energy flows where it can make a difference. You no longer dilute your strength chasing shadows. You sharpen your presence by narrowing your concerns. As a morning habit, this principle becomes a powerful filter. It clears away confusion. It silences noise. It protects your inner clarity from the chaos of the outer world. You are no longer on the defensive. You begin the day from a place of clarity. This mindset prepares you to act with strength, stability, and peace. It gives you the ability to move with intention, to choose your responses, and to live from a deeper place of wisdom. Chapter 3. Returning to virtue as the first task. Seneca wrote that virtue is the only true good. The Stoics did not measure life by outcome, they measured it by conduct. So when the Stoic wakes, their first question is not, "What will I achieve today?" but "How will I live today?" This simple shift forms the core of Stoic anchoring. Every morning becomes an opportunity to recommit to character, to justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. These are not abstract ideals found only in books or lectures. They are practical, guiding principles for how to live with integrity. They define how you respond to difficulty, how you speak to others, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. They are not reserved for perfect circumstances. They are needed most when conditions are imperfect, uncertain, or hostile. When you begin your day with this focus, you are not planning to impress others or perform. You are aligning your inner world with a standard that is constant, regardless of what the outer world delivers. You ask yourself, will I act justly when frustrated? Will I remain measured when provoked? Will I speak truthfully when it is inconvenient? Will I uphold what I believe even when it's easier not to? These questions create moral clarity. They bring your focus away from distraction and into discipline. Virtue does not demand a perfect day. It demands a principled one. It requires effort, not ease. If you fail, you return to it. If you succeed, you deepen it. Either way, the path remains open. The Stoic does not seek moral perfection. They seek moral consistency. That consistency is forged each morning, not once, but every day. The act of recommitting to virtue is itself a victory. It reminds you that your values are more than ideas. They are choices you live by. This returns agency to your hands. You stop waiting for circumstances to give you meaning. You stop using external success as the only measure of a good day. You begin to measure by how you acted, how you treated others, how you carried your responsibilities. This removes comparison. It allows you to step away from the obsession with performance and into the steadiness of principle. It focuses you on your actions, not on outcomes you cannot predict or control. Your day becomes a chance to build a track record with yourself. You are keeping a private account of your own alignment. You are shaping the kind of person you are becoming, not for praise, but for peace of mind. To live in alignment and to honor what you know to be right is one of the greatest forms of freedom. Over time, this becomes a source of confidence. You are no longer guessing whether your day had meaning. You know it did, because you lived it deliberately. You are no longer swayed by the praise or scorn of others, because your standard is internal. The confidence does not come from what you gain. It comes from how you walk your path, how you meet the day, and how you keep your character intact. That is the quiet strength of virtue, and it begins with one clear reminder, repeated each morning. Chapter 4. The Power of Premeditation. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, a mental rehearsal of what could go wrong. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet resistance and difficulty. This was not worry, it was preparation. By visualizing difficulty before it arises, the Stoic removes its sting. They are not surprised by friction. They are ready for it. They have rehearsed composure. They have anticipated insult, delay, discomfort, and setbacks. They have walked through the possible disruptions in their mind while in a calm state. So when these things arrive, they are not overwhelmed. They respond as planned. Their mind has already practiced staying firm, so their actions follow suit with less resistance. This practice of mental preparation strengthens emotional endurance. You build tolerance for life's inevitable disruptions, not by avoiding them, but by facing them before they happen. You take a moment each morning to run through what the day might throw at you, not to catastrophize, but to get acquainted with discomfort ahead of time. This removes the element of shock. You've already met the storm in your mind, and so you don't flinch when the clouds form in reality. This does not make you cold or detached. It makes you stable. It grounds you in realism, not fantasy. You no longer need the day to go smoothly to stay centered. Your mind is not tossed by every external shift. It does not spiral when inconveniences arise. It stands ready. It returns to the understanding that life includes hardship and interruption. It accepts that pain, loss, and struggle are part of the natural flow of existence. And it has chosen not to be broken by them. It stands where it can be useful. In the morning, reflect on what the day might bring. Think not in extremes, but in probabilities. You may face interruption. You may feel misunderstood. You may be asked to wait longer than expected, or give more than you planned. Not to dread it, but to meet it with calm. Ask yourself, what will I do if things don't go my way? What if I am criticized, ignored, tested, or burdened unfairly? How will I speak? How will I hold my values in those moments? What tone will I bring when things grow tense? This reflection becomes a rehearsal of integrity. It strengthens the mind's connection to its own principles. It is not meant to guarantee control, but to improve response. It is how the Stoic learns to stay rooted in clarity while the world shifts around them. The result is not perfection, but readiness. It gives you the mental footing to carry your principles, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, when they matter most. In those moments, your preparation becomes your protection, your clarity becomes your composure, and your values, already chosen in the quiet of the morning, guide you through the noise of the day. Chapter 5. Choosing your role in the world. The Stoic does not wake to be served by the day, they wake to serve in it. Life is not seen as a performance for praise or power. It is seen as a duty, a role to be played with care and dignity. Each day is treated as an opportunity to participate meaningfully in the world, not to conquer it, but to contribute to its order, reason, and integrity. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he was a part of the whole, that he was not an isolated being, but a limb of a greater body, that his role was to contribute, not to dominate, that his task was to bring reason, justice, and order into each encounter, that his individual well-being could not be separated from the well-being of the whole. This way of thinking reorients the mind. It moves attention away from ambition, status, or self-centered gain. It replaces that focus with contribution, cooperation, and responsibility. In your morning reflection, ask, what is my role today? Who will I affect through my words, my tone, my presence? What kind of energy will I bring into shared spaces? What can I do to leave each moment more stable, more honest, more grounded than I found it? These are not abstract questions. They are clarifying tools. They shift the focus from self-centered desire to service, from ego-driven performance to shared responsibility. They remind you that your role may not always be glamorous or seen, but it can always be honorable. You are not in control of every event, but you are in control of how you show up to them. You decide whether to add confusion or clarity. You choose whether to contribute noise or bring calm. You can be composed in tension, honest in conversation, firm in principle, even when no one else is. This is the power of role clarity. It gives structure to your presence and purpose to your behavior. It eliminates the need to impress and replaces it with a focus on doing what is needed. When you start your day with this reminder, you begin to carry a quiet sense of duty into everything you do. This duty is not imposed by others, nor is it driven by the need for attention. It arises from a clear understanding of your place in the world. It's not a burden. It's a commitment that brings structure and direction to each moment, not forced, chosen with purpose. You carry yourself as someone who has a part to play, not for applause, but for alignment with values that matter. You don't wait for ideal circumstances to contribute. You begin with the spaces you already occupy. You bring order into small spaces, the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you solve problems. You become a stabilizing presence in rooms filled with noise and haste, You are not the loudest, but the most grounded. You raise the tone by modeling patience, discipline, and attentiveness. You do your part, not because someone is watching, but because you've decided that living with purpose is reason enough. This inner decision gives consistency to your presence. You stop oscillating between moods and impulses and start reflecting something durable. The effect is not always visible, but it is always real. It spreads through quiet example. This shift in orientation strengthens your identity in a lasting way. You are no longer seeking purpose in fleeting success or outward recognition. You are no longer waiting for validation to determine if the day had value. You are finding it in the way you show up, in the steadiness of your habits, in the consistency of your character, and in the intention behind your daily actions. Each small act becomes part of something greater. You begin to understand that meaning is not found in big gestures, but in 1,000 small choices carried out with care. And when your day ends, you can reflect not on how much you gained, but how much you honored the role you chose to play. You rest not in exhaustion, but in completion, knowing you fulfilled your part, however simple, however invisible. That is the peace that comes from living with principle. That is the fulfillment that no applause can replace. Chapter 6. Starting with stillness, not speed. The modern day begins in haste. Alarms buzz, screens light up, and the mind often starts sprinting before the feet touch the floor. Messages wait. Notifications demand attention. The world rushes in before you have a chance to ask what kind of day you want to live. This is not how the Stoic begins. The Stoic begins in stillness, not inactivity, but inward steadiness, a calm attention to one's own state before the demands of others arrive. Before movement, there is pause. Before speech, there is silence. Before action, there is alignment. Stillness is not idleness. It is not laziness or avoidance. It is space to think clearly, to recall your values, and to anchor in what matters most. It is a moment to reconnect with the part of yourself that is not reactive, not restless, not hungry for validation. A moment to step into the day without being swept up by the world's momentum. This habit, repeated daily, forms a buffer between you and chaos. It creates clarity. It lets you set the terms of your attention. It stops reactivity from taking over before intention is formed. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the value of retreating into the mind, not to escape life, but to return to it stronger, more prepared, more deliberate. In the early morning, this means checking in with yourself. What is mine to carry today? What mindset will serve me best? What distractions should I expect, and how can I guard against them? What does it look like to move through the day with dignity, presence, and focus? When you start the day without stillness, your mind becomes owned by whatever grabs your attention first. You begin reacting instead of choosing. You are pulled into urgency, comparison, and distraction before you've even established your own footing. The tone of your day is set by external pressures. But when you start with stillness, you claim your attention. You determine your pace. You begin with awareness, not urgency. You enter the world not as prey to chaos, but as a participant grounded in your own sense of purpose. Stillness is not a luxury. It is a form of discipline. A brief moment of intentional quiet can sharpen your entire day. A few minutes of reflection, breath, and honest questioning sets the foundation for how you interpret events and how you respond to them. In that silence, you establish direction. You don't slow down to fall behind. You slow down to lead with clarity. You don't pause out of fear. You pause to choose your way forward with strength. This is how the Stoic enters the world, not in a hurry to be everywhere, not scrambling to meet every demand, but rooted enough to be fully present wherever they go. That presence is rare. It brings peace to interactions and strength to challenges. It comes from stillness, not just physical, but mental and emotional steadiness. That stillness begins the moment the eyes open. It is the first act of the day. And for the Stoic, it is not optional, it is essential. Chapter 7. Don't feed the noise. The world is loud. Much of what enters your mind each day is not chosen by you, it is thrown at you. Advertisements, news, arguments, trends, and fears, each one competing for space in your awareness. These are not neutral signals. They are designed to provoke emotion, urgency, reaction. The Stoic begins the day by deciding what deserves that space. They do not surrender their awareness to the first thing that reaches them. They protect it like a sacred resource. Your morning is not just a time to wake the body. It is a moment to filter the mind. It is the most important checkpoint in your mental routine. Before reaching for your phone, before letting headlines shape your emotions, ask, what kind of mind do I want to carry into the day? What kind of internal state do I want to protect? The inputs you allow in the first hour set the tone for how you'll think, what you'll feel, and what you'll prioritize. The Stoic trains themselves to choose thoughts the way a guard lets only trusted people through a gate. They know that what enters unfiltered does not just influence, it directs. Epictetus reminded his students, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That judgment is shaped by what you consume. If your mind is filled with agitation and provocation before it is even grounded, those judgments become distorted. If you begin your day by absorbing noise, you reduce your ability to form wise decisions. You let outer turbulence disturb your inner calm before your clarity has even been established. So the Stoic limits distractions. They do not pretend the world isn't loud. They acknowledge the volume but refuse to let it control their focus. They delay the pull of the timeline, the scroll, the breaking headlines, the noise disguised as urgency. They do not rush to be informed before they are aligned. They give their mind a chance to hear itself before hearing everything else. They give themselves a moment to remember who they are before others tell them who to be. This doesn't mean shutting out the world entirely. It means choosing what to engage with and when. It means building a deliberate boundary, a buffer between your inner life and the flood of outer messages. That buffer creates a space where you can return to your principles, assess your priorities, and begin with clarity. That space becomes a sanctuary. It helps you think clearly, respond calmly, and act in ways that remain true to your values. Without it, you lose your footing before the day even begins. Each day you must decide, will I be led by the noise, or will I lead myself? Will I let the loudest voices dictate my energy, or will I choose what has earned my attention? The morning is the place to make that decision. It is the first line of defense against distraction. To begin with silence, clarity, and awareness is not indulgent. It is necessary. You protect your mind not out of fear, but out of understanding its value. You recognize what is worth your attention and what simply wants to steal it. You pause long enough to question the motive behind the message. Is it informing you, or is it pulling you into unnecessary tension? Is it offering clarity, or is it preying on your impulsive reaction? These questions sharpen your mental filter. You train your awareness to distinguish between what informs and what inflames, to separate what adds value from what adds anxiety. This training is not done once, but repeated daily, reinforced by consistent habits and clear boundaries. You gain the ability to hear the world without being consumed by it. You can acknowledge the existence of chaos without letting it inhabit your mind. You begin to recognize patterns in what distracts you and make small, deliberate choices to return your focus where it belongs. You no longer give your attention as a reflex. You offer it as a decision. This is how the Stoic protects their mind, not once, but every day, with intention sharpened by repetition, with discipline reinforced by habit, with quiet strength earned through the refusal to be owned by noise. They are not silencing the world. They are amplifying their own clarity within it. Chapter 8. Define the standard. Before the day begins, the world gives you many standards to follow: productivity metrics, image ideals, popularity markers, and surface-level validations. These measures are loud, constant, and often misleading. They encourage comparison over clarity and reward appearance over substance. But the Stoic refuses to borrow standards. They begin the day by setting their own. They do not wait for the world to tell them what success looks like. They define it based on character, not outcome. They choose principles over popularity. They seek alignment over applause. Your first thoughts in the morning are the starting line of that definition. Before goals, before schedules, ask, what kind of person do I aim to be today? Not in fantasy, but in conduct. What tone will I bring to conversations? What values will I practice in difficulty? This question roots you in the present moment. It draws attention to what you control, your choices, your words, your attitude. It creates a living standard, not one based on achievement, but on behavior. Not on how much you accomplish, but on how you carry yourself through each task. When you set your own standard, you reclaim autonomy. You stop chasing the approval of others. You stop living by other people's measures. You stop measuring yourself against fleeting external targets that shift with trends and moods. You break free from the cycle of reaction and expectation. You no longer spend your energy trying to match the lives or opinions of people who are not responsible for your peace of mind. Instead, you begin to evaluate your day by how closely your actions reflected your values. Did I act with patience? Did I speak with honesty? Did I stay composed under pressure? Did I hold the line when it was easier to retreat? The Stoic anchors in what is lasting: honesty, discipline, kindness, courage. These are not decorations. They are the structure of a meaningful life. They are the quiet disciplines that form strength over time. They are not dependent on how others treat you or what outcomes you achieve. The Stoic commits to these qualities not for display, not to gain applause or approval, but for internal alignment, for congruence between belief and behavior. Because when you live by your own code, you no longer need the world to approve of it. You are no longer driven by external validation because your direction is already set. Without a standard, you drift. You absorb the pace, priorities, and pressures of others. You wake up and immediately inherit someone else's urgency. You let the demands of the day choose your direction. You adopt concerns that were never yours to carry. You act in ways that don't match who you want to be, simply because you didn't choose who you were going to be in advance. But with a clear standard, you navigate the day with integrity. Your direction is internal. You move from intention, not instinct. You don't need to win every argument, complete every task, or gain every reward. You don't need constant reinforcement. You need to remain consistent with who you said you would be when the day began. That is the true test of character. Can you stay committed to your values when it's inconvenient, when it's unnoticed, when it's difficult? Can you continue to choose what is right when no one is clapping, when no one is looking, and when the easier path is just a step away? Can you hold yourself to a standard even when the pressure is high, even when your patience is thin, even when the reward is uncertain or never arrives at all? This is where self-respect is forged, not in what you say, but in what you do. Not in moments of ease, but in moments of friction. Not in comfort, but in sacrifice. Not when the wind is at your back, but when it pushes against you. Each time you choose your values over your impulses, you reinforce your integrity. Each time you hold your ground in the face of temptation, you strengthen your character. Character is not built in silence because it avoids the world. It is built in silence because it answers to something deeper than applause. It is in these difficult, unseen choices where you become who you claim to be. And each of these moments adds to something far greater than the event itself. They shape the architecture of your inner life. This is the essence of self-respect. To live by your own values, even when the world tells you to abandon them. To remain principled when being principled costs you something. To continue doing what is right, even when no one thanks you, praises you, or validates you for it. To be loyal to your principles, even when no one else is. To hold yourself steady in a moving world. To stay rooted while everything around you shifts. To look back on the day and say, I was who I intended to be. I didn't lose myself in the noise. I didn't sell out for comfort. I honored my standard. I acted from principle. I lived with clarity and did not bend to confusion. I protected what matters most, my alignment with what is right. And that process starts in the morning with clarity, reflection, and a chosen standard that becomes your compass throughout the day. A standard not defined by trends or expectations, but by inner commitment. It starts when you decide, before the world speaks, who you will be and how you will act. It starts with a moment of quiet honesty before the noise begins. This is not about proving anything to others. It is about preserving who you are. It is about building a relationship with yourself that cannot be shaken by praise or broken by criticism. When you live according to your values, not just when it's convenient, but when it costs you something, you begin to build an internal confidence that is not dependent on circumstances. You begin to trust yourself because you have a record of acting with integrity. You no longer need constant external affirmation because you have your own approval, the kind that comes from knowing you kept your word to yourself. It is about refusing to betray your deepest values for temporary gain, no matter how tempting the trade. Many people sacrifice long-term peace for short-term rewards. They compromise for applause, cut corners for recognition, or act out of fear of rejection. But the Stoic holds the line. The Stoic chooses the deeper satisfaction that comes from alignment over the hollow thrill of approval. This kind of strength cannot be seen on the surface. It is forged in silent decisions, in the discipline to do what's right when no one is asking you to. When you live like this, each day becomes an act of discipline and self-trust. You are not perfect, but you are consistent. You do not need to be flawless, but you remain faithful to your principles. Every situation becomes a chance to reaffirm your values. Even the small moments, the pause before speaking, the effort to stay composed, the decision to listen instead of react, become opportunities to reinforce who you are choosing to be. Each day becomes a chance to prove, not to the world, but to yourself, that your values are real because you live them, that your actions match your beliefs, that your identity is not just an idea, but a practice, that your word to yourself holds weight. When you live this way, you begin to carry a quiet power, a kind of stability that does not need to be explained, a kind of respect that begins from within, that you are, even in the unseen moments, exactly who you intend to be. And that is no small thing. In a world constantly trying to shape you, distract you, and pull you away from yourself, to remain true is an act of strength. The Stoic lives with that strength, not in grand declarations, but in daily decisions. In the morning, they choose who they will be, and throughout the day, they prove it, one choice at a time. Chapter 9. Align action with intention. Each morning begins with thought, but it must lead to action. The Stoic understands that reflection without movement is incomplete. Contemplation is not the destination, it is the starting point. A principle is only proven through behavior. A value only becomes real when it is lived. The gap between knowing what is right and doing what is right is where most people falter. The Stoic closes that gap, not with words, but with movement, measured, clear, and consistent. After clarity comes commitment. After deciding who you aim to be, you must show it in how you respond, how you carry yourself, and how you choose. The morning may begin with internal resolve, but that resolve is tested in every external moment. Intention gives you direction. Action confirms it. Intention says, "I want to live with courage." Action steps into discomfort. Intention says, "I value patience." Action slows down in the middle of frustration. Without that second step, philosophy becomes theory. The Stoic turns principle into habit by doing what they said they would do, consistently, not occasionally. They do not wait for inspiration. They move with discipline. This begins with small decisions, holding your tongue when provoked, finishing what you start, showing up when it's uncomfortable, choosing effort over excuses, sticking to a promise even when no one is holding you accountable, responding with calm when irritation tempts you, being honest when it would be easier to exaggerate, listening with patience when you feel the urge to interrupt, staying kind when impatience would feel justified. These are not glamorous moments. They are not loud, dramatic, or applauded. They rarely earn recognition, but this is where character is confirmed, refined, and solidified. In these simple daily acts, often invisible to others, you are building something far greater than a reputation. You are shaping your own identity, one decision at a time. These are not the choices that get headlines. They will not be praised or remembered by others, but they are remembered by you. They form a record in your mind, a track of consistency or compromise. It is not about grand achievements. It is not about moments that will be remembered or celebrated. It is about integrity in small things. It is about choosing what is right over what is easy. It is about how you carry yourself when there is no spotlight, when you are tired, when no one is holding you accountable, when you could cut corners and no one would notice. These decisions shape your view of yourself. This daily alignment forms trust in the self. It gives you proof that your values are not just ideas, they are lived priorities. It teaches your mind that your principles are more than good intentions. They are guiding tools for real action. It builds the foundation for a deeper kind of confidence, one not based on perception or performance, but on daily evidence. That confidence becomes something you can lean on, especially when external results are uncertain. It creates a feedback loop. Each disciplined act reinforces the identity of someone who lives by their values. Each time you follow through, each time you choose principle over comfort, you reinforce the message, "I can count on myself." And over time, this becomes your foundation in every circumstance. You begin to see yourself as reliable, not because you think it, but because you see the proof in how you live. It is not imagined, it is observed, it is documented in your daily behavior. Your self-respect grows not from pride, but from consistency, from knowing that you did what was right when no one else would have known otherwise. You start to believe in your own strength, not because you've avoided failure, but because you've moved through difficulty with your values intact. You remember the times you stayed silent instead of lashing out, stood firm instead of giving in, and kept your standards high even when the rewards were invisible. This is not theoretical confidence. It is earned. It is stable. It is rooted in practice. It is the kind of confidence that carries through fatigue, disappointment, and uncertainty. And this is the Stoic's path, anchoring greatness not in performance, but in discipline, not in being flawless, but in being faithful to the principles chosen at the start of the day. Principles like justice, courage, wisdom, and temperance are not just noble-sounding words. They are guidelines that shape every interaction, every delay, every frustration. These small decisions, repeated daily, become the structure that supports everything else. They become the walls that protect your peace of mind and the floor beneath your resilience. Without them, ideals remain abstract. With them, ideals become identity, and from identity flows clarity, direction, and strength. This is the quiet foundation of the Stoic life, the part no one sees, but the part that holds everything together. Chapter 10. Return to the anchor. Every day ends as it begins, with choice. The choice to live with awareness or drift through routine. The choice to revisit your principles or forget them in the noise. As the Stoic begins the day by setting their mind, they end it by returning to it, not to repeat the routine, but to reinforce it, to see if their intentions became actions, to reflect on how they lived, and whether their behavior aligned with what they committed to in the morning. This return is not a performance. It is an honest, private conversation with oneself. The anchor is not just for the morning, it is for the whole day. But the morning sets the tone. It casts the initial direction, and by evening it must be examined. The Stoic understands that a day not reviewed is a lesson missed. They ask, did I remain composed in difficulty? Did I act in line with what I said I believed? Did I stay steady when things changed quickly? Did I slip into old habits when no one was watching? The Stoic doesn't seek perfection, only honesty. They do not blame themselves for falling short. They investigate. They review the day not to judge, but to understand. Reflection is not a punishment. It is a tool for correction and improvement. This daily return deepens the practice. Morning sets intention. Evening refines it. The Stoic learns not just from reading or thinking, but from doing and reviewing. You gain clarity by action and wisdom by review. One sharpens the other. If you lost your way, you learn why. If you stayed the course, you reinforce it. Either way, you grow, you adjust, you prepare better for tomorrow. Without this return, even a disciplined day becomes disconnected. With it, even a day with mistakes becomes part of your growth. The morning reminder must be more than a ritual. It must become a compass, something you refer to in moments of tension, a stable reference when emotions rise, a steady guide for unstable hours. To return to it is to reclaim control, to renew clarity, and to carry forward the effort to live well, not in bursts, but in rhythm, not in episodes of effort followed by collapse, but in a quiet, repeatable consistency, with constancy, with awareness, with the quiet power of those who choose each day to live by principle, not just once, but again and again. That is the Stoic path, not marked by noise, marked by return. Return to awareness, return to standards, return to your word. Return to what you said mattered when you were clear, before the pressure, before the distraction, before the temptation. Again and again, to the center, to the anchor, to the stillness that doesn't sway with the world's fluctuations, to the discipline that doesn't depend on how you feel, but on what you've chosen. To the self you are choosing to become, not imagined, not promised, but practiced. That self is not built in a single decision. It is not a one-time breakthrough. It is forged in repetition, in reflection, in the quiet resolve to live with integrity when no one else is looking. Each return is a form of renewal. You are not reinventing yourself. You are refining yourself, sanding down inconsistency, tightening alignment, deepening your center. You do not wait for the world to shape you. You shape yourself by returning to your principles, even when it would be easier not to. You return when you are tired. You return when you are overwhelmed. You return when you are tempted to abandon your values. This is what builds durability. This is what makes character real. To return daily to what you've chosen to become is to declare with action that your standards are not seasonal, that your virtues are not hobbies, that your growth is not something that happens only when it is easy. And in that return, your philosophy becomes real, not as a concept, but as a life, not something spoken, but something lived, not something admired from a distance, but something demonstrated up close in daily conduct. The Stoic life is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in steady returns. It is forged not through performance, but through perseverance, not through flashes of insight, but through the practice of stability. Each time you return, you reinforce the structure of your values. You walk a path not of novelty, but of discipline. You do not need to feel inspired to return. You return because returning is who you are now. You return to the mirror and see progress. You return to the standard and measure how well you held it. You return not to be perfect, but to be honest. And in that honesty, you adjust, you correct, you recommit. Each time you return, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you are becoming. You shrink the gap between intention and behavior. You prove that your values are not circumstantial. They are anchored in your character. Each time you return, you choose clarity over confusion, order over drift, and discipline over excuse. You choose presence over distraction, action over avoidance, reflection over reaction. That is the true power of the Stoic path, not in what it says, but in what it quietly repeats, not in a single heroic act, but in the quiet rhythm of commitment, day after day, return, recenter, recommit. And with each return, you are not simply living, you are becoming. That is the work, that is the way.